This is the hardest and most emotionally confusing video that I've ever had to make. Everyone that watches this video will inevitably have a lot of questions. I'm going to do my best to answer what I can and be honest, and to really grasp the situation I recommend watching this video till the end, or it's really not going to make much sense. Lots of you would have watched my previous videos where I told you guys very excitedly that I was going to be a dad, and you've been wondering and asking how my twins are and what's happened. And for those of you just joining, I got with someone who later told me she was pregnant, and at first, as you can imagine, I was pretty shocked, and I expressed my opinion that she shouldn't keep it, but ultimately it was her decision. And then she took a few days to think about it, in which time I told her that if she wanted to keep it, then she should keep it, and I'll support it and be the best father I possibly can. And then she ended up telling me that she wanted an abortion. Then on the day that it was meant to happen, she told me that she couldn't go through with it. And from then on, I thought that I was going to be a father, and I was really excited. I told my closest friends and family, and the weeks went by. I tried to get to know her better because we had actually only met once. I believed that the decision to keep our relationship platonic and friendly was a mutual one, and I was pretty positive that we could raise a happy child and make a partnership of bringing up a kid work. Now, throughout the pregnancy, there was always some kind of reason as to why a scan got cancelled or rescheduled. And what I thought was the 12-week scan, for example, she told me that there was a mix-up of times, and then she went to the doctors and they told her that she should have a scan there and then. And obviously I just believed it. And that's when she told me that it was twins. My priority throughout the whole thing was just to maintain a healthy relationship with her. And I kind of got by knowing that when the children were here, there would be no doubt that I would have a big part in their lives. So I kind of didn't question a lot, and I took what she said at face value. Then she told me we were expecting twins. Obviously the situation just magnified, but even though it was overwhelming, it was really exciting. I believed that I was going to have twins, which was mad. And we would be talking a lot throughout this, mainly just about the babies, how it would be, name ideas, and all that kind of thing. And I had no reason to suspect that anything was weird or off. And a similar thing happened for the next supposed scan, when we were meant to find out the genders, which was meant to be like the 18-week scan or something. And she told me a date, and then it got rescheduled. And then on that day, she went completely AWOL. I was waiting at Gloucester Road station for like 3 hours because she hadn't actually told me the exact location. And then she called me that night telling me that she had had a breakdown and she couldn't do it, which obviously I sympathised with. And she took a bit of time. And then the same thing happened 2 weeks later, and then that time she ended up texting me explaining that her father had died, which, as you can imagine, was a really horrendous situation. And I just let her know that if she needed anything, I was there for her, etc. And she told me she was at home with her family, and it was awful, and I couldn't really comprehend what I thought she was going through, let alone try and help her. But I did see her a couple weeks later when we went baby shopping, and her stomach had grown quite a lot. She actually had a bump now. She seemed okay, a bit kind of awkward or whatever, but I thought she had been through a lot, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then I saw her again like a month later. My mum tried really hard to make her feel welcome, and she invited her to our family house, and she had lunch with all of us. And since my family barely knew her, they didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable or anything, because she was quite awkward, and no one asked to feel the bump or anything like that. In fact, at one point my sister was looking at it, and she actually turned away and said that she felt uncomfortable when people did that. So that was the kind of vibe, and we didn't want to make her, no one wanted to make her feel uncomfortable. So again, we just didn't really think much of that either. Throughout all this time, I would always offer her help if she needed anything, like for me to cook or help with the nursery. And there would always be some reason as to why I couldn't come, or when she'd say, oh yeah, come tomorrow, and then just not text me back, which I thought was really strange, considering our babies were due to be born so soon, and I still hadn't even gone to her house, and she hadn't even given me a full address. But that will make sense to you guys in a bit. So on the 2nd of January, I went to Chelsea and Westminster Hospital because I was led to believe that my twins were due to be born that day by means of a C-section. I spoke to her the night before and she said that she's moving into her private room in the morning and she would let me know when she does that. And then I woke up on the morning and there was no message from her. I messaged her, didn't go through, called her, straight to answer machine, and her phone was just off. So I just went to the hospital and just kind of sat in the waiting area waiting for some contact that never came. I went to the maternity reception and they said they have no record of her and she wasn't there. And I went to the private wing and they said the same thing. Obviously I was just really confused, and the hours went by of me just waiting there thinking that she was going to get in contact. I called a couple of other nearby hospitals and they said the same thing. My friend came and met me and gave me some company. At this point, what I thought was happening was that she didn't want me at the birth, and I couldn't get my head around why she would have changed her mind about that when she knew how important it was to me. I was always supposed to be there, and she had told me like 2 days before that she wanted me there. But that was the only possible explanation I could think of, either that or something bad had happened. So then I got in contact with one of our mutual friends who also told me that he couldn't get through to her, and he was pretty worried, and he advised me to go to the police if it went on for much longer. So I call up the block of flats that she's meant to live at, and the guy told me that she doesn't live there and there's no pregnant woman living there. So at this point, my brain is just like, what is happening? Then I go to the police and file a missing person report, and they treated it as high priority because, well, we thought she was heavily pregnant. And we went over there in a police car, and the police went into the block of flats that she had told my mum she lived at as well, because my mum tried to send her a Christmas card, and the guy was like, she doesn't live here and there's no pregnant woman living here. So the police take me home, they assure me that they're gonna find her, and then the next morning I wake up to a message from them saying, "Hi Roberto, with regards to the missing person report, she's been found safe and well and we can't give you any further information." So I called the police back up and they repeated to me that they couldn't tell me anything else. So I was like, well, what about the children? They're my children. Surely you can say something about that. And the guy was like, there isn't anything about any children in this report, which obviously just confused me further. And then I get a text from her saying, "I've only just been able to get on some messages in the last few hours. I collapsed in East London Monday evening, been taken to a hospital and woke up with police in my room." And then there was no mention of any children. And then I called her, and to my huge surprise, she picked up, told me that she had gone into labour and one baby was fine and one of them was in intensive care, but wouldn't let me know where she is. And I was like, why? What have I done? Why can't I see my kids? And she was like, I haven't done anything. And then she was like, okay, you can come and see me, my cousin will call you, and just hung up. So I text her again, pleading to let me see my children. My mum texts her, and then she texts me saying, "It's best if you don't get attached to someone that will die, Hobbie. You can come if you just see one of them. If you promise me that, you can come." Well, I mean, that kind of speaks for itself, really. She turns off her phone and doesn't contact me for the rest of the day. Then I call up our mutual friend to just tell him what's going on, because obviously he was really worried and he knew something strange was going on, and he was actually trying to help me figure it out. And he told me in that phone call that her father was in fact not dead. Now, as you can imagine, I'm just sitting there in my house like, what on earth is happening? Nothing was making sense to me, but still the possibility of there being no kids was just too much. After everything, my only explanation was that for some reason she didn't want me to see the kids and she was just going to run off with my children, which was, as you can imagine, the most distressing feeling that I've ever had. Luckily, I remembered her dad's name because she had said it to me once ages ago, and me and my friend found his address on an electorate register online. And then she texts me saying that she's leaving the kids somewhere with a note with my number. So I was like, that's it, this has got too much now. I asked my friend to go up to the dad's house, try and negotiate seeing my kids, or trying to find out at least what the hell was going on. And I didn't want to go up there myself because I didn't want to come across confrontational or aggressive in case it worked against me if I ever tried to get custody of these kids in the future. So two of my best friends drove up there, knocked on the door, and the dad that was meant to be dead answers the door with a woman who we thought was the stepmom. He says there's no children, and they were both just mad confused, and they actually thought that my friend was some weirdo.
Hi.
Hello.
Is this the ceremony?
Why?
My name's and I'm just really concerned about
What's the problem?
I'm friends with Hobbie Stuart, who is the father of the children, and I just
What children? What children?
I was under the impression she was pregnant. I had lunch with her in November.
Right.
Why are you here?
She said that she was pregnant, and she came to our house with a bump, and she told us that she had a C-section on the 2nd.
And that was that. There were no children, and her parents had no idea of any pregnancy, which didn't really sink in properly at first. And then later that night, one of my best friends done a Google reverse image on the scans that she had sent me, and found them on some American woman's Flickr. And they were all there, which was the conclusive evidence, and everything that she had told me and everything that I thought was happening for the last 7-8 months was a lie. And it was so surreal and deeply disturbing. In my mind, I was going to be a dad, and I was ready, and I'd been thinking about it and preparing for it for most of the year. And then from one day to the next, I find out it's all over. As you can imagine, it's taken me a few weeks to come to terms with all this, and I'm sorry I haven't updated you sooner, but it's been an incredibly sensitive and private matter, and I've had to prioritise myself and my family before anything. I struggled to sleep for a while and found it hard not to dwell on the manipulation and stress and anxiety that not only I've been through, but my mum, who already suffers with mental and physical health, and my father, my family in Brazil, my close friends. We've all been through a huge ordeal, and I can imagine taking responsibility for being behind something like this is a very hard thing to do. I went to see her father last week to make sure that he was aware of the severity of the situation, so that she can get the help that she requires. I also found out that the woman with him wasn't the stepmom, but actually her mum, who she had also told me had died years ago. And they were actually really sweet and apologetic after they realised that I wasn't there for any kind of revenge or retaliation, and they both apologised on her behalf. It was sad, but despite everything, I really want it known that I don't hate her at all, and I don't want her to suffer. Unfortunately, I am in a position where I'm forced to address this. She knew that I was gonna announce to my following that I was going to be a dad, and she let it happen. Her responses to me when I've told her that I know the truth and I found it out have ranged from telling me that she miscarried both of them in September and continued to fake the pregnancy out of grief, which doesn't add up because her parents had no idea she was ever pregnant, to now posting pictures of someone else's baby on her Instagram story and as her WhatsApp picture, and then posting on gossip sites that she had a stillbirth and she's in LA with one child. This really isn't a video that I ever wanted to do, but I can't just pretend that nothing ever happened, and I made this video very thorough so that I never have to address this on my channel or my social media again. And it would just be really unfair if, after all I've been through and my family have been through, people were thinking that I'm being an absent father to children that don't even exist, or worse, one or both of them have died. I would also like to ask for anyone that might know her identity to please keep it quiet. Don't send any hate. I want to put emphasis on the fact that I'm not making this video out of any kind of revenge. As you can imagine, I've had loads of messages from you guys, from people online, from people that know me, even my friends asking me how my children are. And it's been something that's been so hard to reply to because it's mad. The story is ridiculous, and there's no short way or easy way to tell it. Despite everything, I sincerely hope that she gets help and finds some kind of absolution and happiness in the future and a way to rebuild her life. As for myself, I'm just taking a bit of time out, reconfiguring what my life looks like now, doing some music. I'm going to South Africa tomorrow just to chill out and have some downtime, get some sun, see some zebras. I think that there are always positives you can take from any situation. I think in this one I am a better and more well-rounded person than I was 1 year ago. I'll never really be able to understand why this has all happened. I just want to move on, and I hope that she can move on as well. And I want to say that a lot of you guys watching have been so loyal and supportive to me over the years, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am. And for now, I just ask for you to respect my privacy and her privacy as well. And I will see you really soon. Thanks a lot, guys.